David Niethe, welcome to my podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, mate.
Mate, I'm excited about this, Dave. Who would have thought, eh? Who would have thought the scrawny kid from Wellesley College, who was considered dumb by the system, has now got a fucking book.
Yeah, I know, mate. And the thing is, the book wasn't even in my sort of range of vision. You know, I was concentrating on doing my education. I was on work, and then out of the blue, I get a phone call from the publisher saying we want you to write a book for us, and it was like, what the heck? So it was a bit of a surprise. Yeah, very humbling too.
Massively
Yeah.
gratifying. I've written books as well, and I think it's the same sort of thing. Like, I would have never had the, I don't know, like arrogance, confidence, ego, or whatever to think, I'm going to write a fucking book. But when a publisher comes to you and says, you should do this, there's a market for it. Yeah. It's incredibly gratifying.
Yeah, and I think what's gratifying for me now is, it wasn't on the radar. I spent a lot of time, and I was very blessed to have a lady who helped me write the book, Nick McCoy.
I know Nick.
She's such a lovely lady, and she was really clear that, she said, we're going to keep this sort of in a narrative that's you. You know, we're not going to try and, like I said before, we're not going to try and make this something more than what it is. So I was a little apprehensive, a little out of my depth, I thought, and here it is now that it's published. I'm getting feedback from people, and it blows my mind. People that are really enjoying it. So it's bloody humbling.
Yeah. So the book is called The Winning Mindset. Book aside, what is the winning mindset?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those subjective things, mate. For you, it could be winning a marathon. For someone else, it's overcoming a fear. For someone else, it's being able to present in front of 100 people. You know, ultimately, what I want to be able to do is give them a toolbox of concepts that help them overcome and become the best version of themselves.
And what's your nickname? Mike Hoskin gave you a nickname on 7 Sharp years ago, and it sort of stuck. What is it? The Yoda?
Something, yeah.
Handsome Yoda?
No, I think he fancied me. No, something Yoda. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was for Lydia.
Yeah, right.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, well, okay, since you mentioned your name, I think this is probably a great way to start as a conduit between who you are, what you do, and some of the people you've worked with. So, out of all the high-profile people you've worked with, these two probably intrigue me the most, just because of the difference in what they do, who they are, and their sports. Lydia Ko and Israel Adesanya. So Lydia Ko, the goat of women's golf, and the greatest golfer New Zealand's ever produced.
Yeah.
You started working with her when she was how old?
Oh, she was about 8.
Right.
And
how did that relationship come about?
Well, her coach Guy Wilson and I worked together when we created the Institute of Golf, and through that, we identified kids with talent, and obviously the mental part was important. And he made the introduction, and it just grew from there. I spent 8 years working, with Lydia.
But what do you do? Because you're like part of your, I don't know, I was going to call it a shtick, but it's not really. Part of your thing is, you don't pull punches. It's like a tough love sort of approach. So what the fuck are you doing with like an 8-year-old kid? Yeah,
but with Lydia, I think what it was is enhancing a young lady who already had the right attitude. And it wasn't like it was an intensive once a week sort of scenario, it was more a very softer action reflection process. And I think the most important thing with Lydia, she was really curious about how she could become a better golfer. And there were plenty of moments of frustration for Lydia, and I think one of the contributing factors to her playing so well and developing so quickly probably was the fact that before Lydia, I had a young lady called Cecilia Cho, who was the world #1 amateur, and Cecilia and Lydia played against each other, and so there was this rivalry, which I think there's nothing really as powerful as having some rivalry. You know, it just sharpens the saw, so to speak.
It keeps you honest.
It really does, and it really benefits. I mean, there were times when Lydia was in the office and she was very upset because she lost. And, you know, she had to learn how to navigate her way through that and ultimately get herself into a position that she started winning consistently. And that builds the momentum, the belief and the potential, and all these things grow to a point where we have now as a young lady who's not even 30 in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, she's done it all, like Olympic medals.
It's outstanding.
Oh, my God, she's amazing. So at that age, who was driving her? Was it from her parents, or was it
No,
from...
Lydia was self-driven.
Yeah.
And again, this is another thing that, you know, we've had over the years is, you know, her parents really drove her. That is not what her parents were incredibly supportive of a young lady. And I tell this story. I think one of the keys to Lydia's success was the one question that she would ask constantly at the range. And you know, she'd be the last one at the range. She had a key to lock up, you know. And the last thing she would ask when Mum was cold, tired and wanted to go home, she would ask, can I just hit one more? And when she's hit that one, she'd ask again, can I just hit one more? She was committed. She was tenacious. She outworked people.
Wow. I got goosebumps hearing that. So
Yeah.
are you still in touch or not, or is it sort
absolutely.
of a transactional?
No, we're still in touch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you send her a message when she wins a gold medal?
Yeah, actually, I think her book has just arrived at her place in Florida. I won't give the address away, but yeah, she's looking forward to getting the book. Yeah.
How good. And so on the other end of the completely different sport, you can't think of more different sports and sports people than you know, a young female golfer and a wannabe UFC fighter who has gone on to do incredible things. So you started working with Israel Adesanya when he was like a kickboxer that was losing fights.
So he was struggling a little bit. It was 2016, and I think it was his coach and I think that possibly the girlfriend at the time sort of kept talking about me, and eventually we teed up to have a catch up. And again, here's the other thing about exceptional athletes like Lydia and Israel. They understood the importance of the mental aspect, and they were very keen and curious to investigate. You know, they were very open to doing anything to give them the mental edge. So the thing that, like with Israel, that we started with was sort of helping him to identify as a UFC champion. And, you know, there's a little story that I tell. I actually got two stories, one for Lydia and one for Israel. What I think is really important is, you know, you always want to work with the end in mind. And so that means you've got to create the vision. And when I work with my clients, I get them to create a vision board. So Lydia went away and she brought me her vision board. And what she had done, she had Golf Digest magazine cover with Annika Sorensen holding the US Open. And what Lydia had done is she had cut off Annika's head and popped her head on top of it. Now, I love that because it's sensory specific. She was clear on what she wanted, right? Now, the wonderful story with Israel was the same thing. And what was really cool is Mike Angrove, who was one of the trainers at City Kickbox, he had Izzy staying with him, and he came home one afternoon because these kids, you know, they'd train 3 times a day, and he's having a little snooze. And there's Israel looking up at his vision board, and what he had done, he got one of his mates to take a photo of him and superimpose the middleweight UFC championship belt around him. And so Mike goes past, and there's Israel at the edge of his bed looking up at this vision board going, I'm the UFC middleweight champion of the world. Now, the one thing that you constantly hear from Israel now is, I manifested this. So it's the power of vision. Thoughts become things, and that's the power of aligning intention with attention, and you create something that you become obsessed with a behaviour. Do you know what I mean? And it's knowing exactly what you want, where you're going, and creating it at little small steps each and every day.
So that stuff actually works. Like the vision board
of course
stuff.
it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What other stuff would they have on the vision board, or do you just need one thing like that?
No. It could be a number of things. In fact, how it all came about is I had one. So 1994. When I thought about my ultimate vision, and I'm a printer at this point. I'm on $6 an hour as a bloody printer, and I hating the job.
Yeah, you're printing out copies of Women's Day magazine.
Fuck, I hated that with a passion. And I had this. I drew this picture of me, of a guy on stage, which was me on stage with my hands up, with a whole lot of thousands of people watch me, because that sort of visually represented the ultimate version of me. And years later, it's become a constant reality. It's pretty powerful, man.
So when you reach where you want to go, so for Lydia Ko, making on the cover of... Oh, hey, Bella.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thanks, Belly. Lovely.
How's that, Jax? Oh, my bum! That's good? Cool.
That's all right. Thank you, Bella.
Thank you.
So the examples you gave with Izzy with the belt on and Lydia Ko on the cover of Golf Digest magazine, does the vision board constantly change? Like,
it can change. I mean, here's the thing: there's a certain level of specificity that's required in it, and it's got to be sensory specific to the person. Because I get the kids to do it, and what they'll do is they'll have pictures of their idols, right? And I'll go, is that specific to you? Because, the mind wants specificity, right? When you think about goal setting, what's the first thing in the formula? Is SMART, right? So it's got to be specific. And it needs to be sensory specific so that the subconscious mind identifies. So, I get these kids to go away and they start getting pictures of themselves achieving what their ultimate goals are. But having said that, there's a number of different things. I had another golfer, Michael Hendry, that I've worked with, and he wrote out a check for over $1 million to himself to win on tour.
You know what? Jim Carrey did the same thing, I think, with a $5 million check.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Michael's achieved that constantly. So you've put it this way: if I said to you, "I'll give you $1 million," what's the first thing you're going to ask? Well, where is it? And let's get clear on what the hell I want. So what happens with a lot of people is that we're ambiguous. We're ambiguous with our language. For instance, people will constantly say something like, I wish I had more money. So you go down the local dairy, you grab a few things, you get some change, you get a scratchy, you win $2. You got more money. But are you happy? So the power of focus on specificity is really important. What exactly do you want?
Well, how much money do you want? You mean in that example?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know for me, one of the things in the early chapter of the book is, if you couldn't fail, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I read that part in the book, and I think the thing for me that felt quite confronting about that is I didn't even know. I didn't even know the answer.
And that in itself is an answer, isn't it? Because now you have to do is that you've challenged to really kind of ask better quality questions. So the fundamental thing here is the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of the questions you ask of yourself and others. And it's too easy. When I say to the kids, if you could not fail, what would you like to do? And the initial response is, I don't know. And then I'll go, but if you did know, what would you say? And you've got to start challenging people because, we've got to be consciously engaged through the beautiful thing. We've got personal agency. You know, and it's up to us. And you start challenging people to think. And the other thing is you weave into that something like, well, you know, give yourself permission to dream big, right? And then I get all sorts. Oh, far out. I like Air Force. I want to be on a rocket and all these things. And for the young kids, it's not like we have to go, oh, don't be stupid. There's no way. I want to encourage the kids to dream big, and then over a period of time, as they mature, they'll get a little bit more clarity. But at least they've got the habit of asking themselves better quality questions. That will set them up to put them on a better path to, I mean, there's nothing more exciting than knowing where you're going and striving for that.
Yeah.
As opposed to being lost.
Yeah. Well, my from where I'm sitting now as a 51-year-old man, like one of my big regrets is probably not dreaming bigger. But when you're a kid growing up in a town called Palmerston North, I suppose like being on the radio seemed like the most outlandish, outrageous.
But it's appropriate
thing.
to you though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have been someone working on a labouring job still in the same town.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's all proportionate, depending on what each individual. You and I are alike. I mean, I'm a South Auckland boy who left school with no qualifications, got a job as a printer, miserable, and then suddenly I decided, you know, enough's enough. I'm going to just start designing my life. Now, when I think about how I live my life now, as I said to you, it's Friday. I don't work Fridays. I have Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. And when you think about the amount of clients that I see, fundamentally, I work a 2-day working week. Now, going back to when I was a printer, I used to get excited about doing 60-hour weeks because I needed the frickin' money and I was excited about overtime.
Yeah, those factory jobs are hard, eh?
It's fucked. I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Yeah. So, we'll poke around some of the other organisations and people you've worked with, and then we'll get into the Dave story. Yeah. So, you mentioned Michael Hendry before. He was at the Olympics recently. How's he doing? Because he got diagnosed with cancer like a year and a bit ago.
Oh man, I'll tell you, that was. I remember having a conversation with him, and I'm obviously out of respect for Mike, I'm not going to go into great depth, but you know, we discussed the inevitable potentially, and that was a tough conversation.
The inevitable being death.
Hey, absolutely. You know, and you know what process do we have to set up in case that does happen? You know, but Michael's a tenacious, stubborn bastard, and he was determined to conquer this. And we had a few sessions, and honestly, hats off to that guy. I think a lot of it comes down to his mindset. I think his driving force, though, ultimately was his wife and his daughters. Family is really important for Mike. Mike's he's not he's in the limelight with his golf, but ultimately he would just like to be at home with his kids. Yeah.
And the Breakers.
They were.
You did work with the Breakers, 2015?
Oh, man, I tell you, I love working with them.
Yeah, how I can understand like working with individuals, but how does that apply when it's magnified to a team?
Yeah, well, obviously there was a combination of the collective working with, the vision, the goals for the team, and then from there I started working with the individuals. And I've worked with some amazing guys. But I remember we ran a seminar for the boys, and a lot of the imports, and a guy called Abikwe, who that was the dude that put up the shot on the buzzer for the Breakers to win the NBL. I think it's 2016. Anyway, so I run the seminar, and afterwards, a big way jumps up and he goes, "You know what you are, man? You're real, motherfucker. You're real." He loved it, right? And I've kept in touch ever since. You know, and I think that's what a lot of the athletes like working with me is. I'm sort of a blue collar guy. I can understand what they've gone through. I've pushed myself to the limits physically with the powerlifting and strongman. And there's a mutual understanding. and a respect there. And I think that's sort of gives me that little bit of edge.
Yeah, 'cause your opening line is, do you give me permission to be blunt and honest?
Yeah, yeah.
That's your opening line for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Well,
so go,
not all the time, but most of the time. I mean, I'm not going to say that to a 12-year-old coming for the first right.
Lydia.
I don't want to scare the shit. I'll scare the shit out of them and then make them perform. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's a good thing to say, especially in this day and age where.
Oh, don't get me on this.
Yeah.
Look, the one thing that I am absolutely committed to is to be blunt and honest, because we tiptoe around emotions. Now, listen, this is where I've said, I'm mental performance, I'm not mental health, right? Mental performance is performance, and you can't pussyfoot around. If you're a powerlifter who wants to hit a 220k bench, mate, you can't have any freaking doubt in your head. If you're about to go into a fight, you can't have doubt in your head. If you're going and you have doubt, that can potentially contaminate your round when you're playing tournaments, you're not going to win. You must have an undoubtable belief in self. You have to be able to manage your mind in such a way that your thoughts and your feelings and your actions are congruent with what the outcome is, what you want to create.
So being blunt and honest, like how does that look in the early days with those examples before, like Lydia Ko and Israel Adesanya?
Yep. I'll call them out on their victim story.
Right.
Yeah.
So Izzy's victim story.
Well, Izzy didn't have a victim story per se, but generally, you get clients that, it's hard for me. And one of the things that I'm trying to sort of reiterate is the importance of language. Listen to what you're saying, right? What's the goal? I want to be world champion. Okay, so what are you speaking right now? Oh, it's really hard for me to get motivated. Or I put someone on a pedestal. I love to be like, well, you put people on a pedestal, you give your power away. So it's calling them out on and ensuring that ideally they go to a place where they become clear and congruent.
Right. So, someone like Lydia Ko, like the picture you've painted of her, is a kid that just has this drive to be the best. So how are you blunt and honest with her? You tell her to rein it in, or?
I didn't have to be blunt and honest with Lydia.
You had permission to, but you didn't exercise the right.
Lydia was honestly easy because when she had a session with me, the first part of the session obviously was to bowl up and play with my dogs before she came and saw, because that was more important to her when she was 8, 9, 10, 11, right? And then we'd sit down and we had a real simple action reflection process, right? So we'd talk about the tournament, and it's about her learning to be able to reflect in such a way that we can be critical without undermining your self-confidence, right? So, she would start talking about, I got a little anxious on the first tee, probably because there was a lot of people there. Okay, so how do we deal with that? I got a little anxious because my chipping wasn't very good that day, right? But how do you overcome? What can we do to overcome that? Because golf's not a game of perfect. So ultimately what it is that you need to be able to control what you can control. Now, the foundation of that control is in the physiology. And you to learn how to manage your mind and body, it improves probability. It can't guarantee a win, but it improves probability. Now, when you get a continuum on that and you build the momentum on that, you end up with a Lydia Ko who's constantly winning. That's the key.
Yeah. Shit, that's powerful, isn't it? So the stuff you do, like, how does it? I can understand with these high performers, because if you think of like the pyramid, the Israel Adesanyas or the Michael Hendrys or the Lydia Kos, they want someone that's gonna thrash them and be blunt and honest. How does that work when you're doing like a keynote speech to 150 accountants or whatever?
Fucking accountants. Yeah, mate, I'll tell you. Look, the thing is, You know, it's all scalable, right? It's all applicable, though. You know, the importance of managing yourself through your self-awareness. You know, right? I mean, fundamentally, you cannot change anything you don't first recognise. So things like being aware of your language, your representation. You know, think about this. Some people in winter bitch and moan about the cold. Other people ski. It's perception, right?
Yeah.
And we go through life and we have all these filters. Some people go doom and gloom, and that's reflected in their language.
Actually, when we were recording this, it was a few days after the most recent UFC in Perth 305. Did you watch that by chance?
Oh, hell yeah.
So I bring this up as an example because, like for me, it would be the most unfathomable thing, like the worst fear being in the octagon. And then I can't imagine what I'd look like after 4 rounds. Yeah. Just the fear in my eye.
You wouldn't be pretty anymore. That's
well, I wouldn't actually. I'll take that back. I wouldn't be at the point where I'm sitting in between round 4 and round 5. But here we have Dan the Hangman Hooker. Gashes all over his face. Blood pissing out of his face in between round 4 and round 5. The fight's still in the balance. And he's sitting on the stool with, Eugene whispering in his ear, big smile on his face, and then he's caught on mic saying, "I love this shit."
Okay, so here's the thing. Look at that representation. When you love something, right, you want to do it, don't you?
Yeah, but how do you train yourself to, love being...
Well, again, how long has he been fighting? So it's understandable for you who's never been in a ring or in a fight, so to speak, to go, I just can't understand that. But I would say that Dan would be sitting here and going, what sort of fuckwit goes and runs 60 kilometres, fucking 100k runs and ultra marathons? Are you nut? What's the point? Yeah. There's no point. I'd rather have something active where I'm punching someone in the face. So we're all different, man, but ultimately for what I teach my clients is the performance window. And there are basically 3 states, right? And I like to keep things simple. 3 is a good number. So the base of that is calm, right? Now, you can't make good decisions when you're not calm. When you're hysterical, you make dumb decisions, right? So you've got to be calm. The next is happy. When you're happy, it's very hard to access negative self-talk or doubt, right? What's the physiology on your face when you're happy? It's, and people like that, how do you know when someone's depressed? Well, the head's down. So we learn to reframe things to serve us, and then the ultimate is, obviously, what I talked about was the alter ego. And that's where you have the style bender. That's where you have all sorts of different alter egos that people can use to help them go to another level of focused performance.
Right, that makes Yeah, I had Michaela Blyde on the podcast recently from the New Zealand Sevens, just recently back from Paris, and she calls herself on the field Minnie. Yep. And Minnie is a different person to Michaela.
Yeah, Michaela's immortal and she has limitations. But what was her ego?
Minnie.
Minnie is flawless, fearless, amazing. I've worked with this all the time. Now, here's a prime example, because we are very good at creating a story that can sabotage our potential, right? So I had a lady come and see me and she said, "Look, Dave, I need some help. I've got a tournament coming up for golf and I can't play bunker shots." And she said, "Please, I need you to come and help me." And I said, "Okay." And so we went out this little corner of the golf course. I threw some golf balls in there and said, show me. She goes, "Oh, look, I'm just fucking useless." And she's working hard to prove to me that she can't. Now, she wants a change in 30 seconds, right? Now, I'm pretty good at what I do, and I like this sort of challenge, right? So I said to her, "You know what we're going to do? Because I know how important it is for you right now to make that change, to be able to really hit those bunker shots easily and effortlessly whenever you hop in that wing." So I'm starting the hypnotic fucking language. And I said, "I want you now just to, are you prepared to play a game with me?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, all I want you to do is to act and pretend that you're Annika Sorensen, and there's a whole lot of girls here, and you're doing a seminar on how to get out of a bunker, right? So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to associate. So immediately when she associated into Annika Sorensen, what happened? The physiology changed, right? So the shoulders are back, right? And that's when I anchored the state, and I said, now, when you open your eyes, you're Annika Sorensen. There's 3 balls in there. Show us how it's done. So, okay, well, a couple of key things. So she's going, now you need to set your feet so that the club doesn't blah, blah, blah. And she goes through and she hits the shot up like that far from the hole. And she goes, what the fuck have you done to me? And I said, I haven't done anything. You've done it to yourself. You self-sabotage. You know, like I said, you cannot change anything you don't first recognise. And one of the key things you need to recognise is, what is the story I'm telling myself? I did it for years. I was constantly seeking affirmation or confirmation that I was thick. And it wasn't until I was 20, when I was diagnosed as dyslexic, that it unlocked a whole new world for me. You know, then you go on an adventure. I am very much the existentialist, right? I think we're thrown in this world, we live, we die, that's it, right? So for me, I want to get as much out of this time that I'm on this planet as possible. That fascinates me. The one thing I get pissed off with is people that say they're bored. They're not bored. You're just boring. So, you know, I there's so much to do.
Yeah. You mentioned before the phrase self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a little bit? Because I think my inner voice, I don't. It's nowhere near as good as what it could be.
Yeah.
But I've got a conflicted relationship with it, because I know it's a bad thing, but then on the flip side of that, like, I don't want to give myself too much of a pass card. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to. I feel like if flogging myself a little bit gives me a little bit of an edge with some things, but I know it's unhealthy in other things. So say, for example, I'm going out for a 30K training run, and after 10Ks, I'm not feeling good, so I call it in. I'm never going to go, oh, well, I'm still proud of myself. I did 10Ks. So that's all good.
Yeah, I think you've got to be very careful with that, right? Because here's the thing, and I talk about this. So imagine a pitcher or a bowl full of crystal clear water. And through that water, you can see your vision, right? Now, we have something like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Oh, God knows how poor prick that could. You know, imagine trying to count that. But anyway, through your consciousness, that's the gatekeeper. If you're not conscious of it and not self-supportive, without being deluded, right? But you've got to be more self-supportive, because it's a little bit of diet. It's insignificant. But you can imagine if you had 20,000 negative thoughts, it stains the bowl. Do you know what I mean? I think there are times where a quality athlete knows themselves that predominantly, consistently over a long period of time, I've been consistent with my training and I push myself. There are days when you also have to listen to the body, because you've tuned into it, and give yourself permission to have a break. The challenge that we have is to the choice in that moment. Do you know what I mean? Because that is where you can start to cheat yourself. And that's when I said, what's your intention? It has to align with your attention. And if your attention is not in alignment with it, then you can start sabotaging your ability to progress. If you're constantly going 10Ks and the requirement is 30, and you're constantly going, oh, fuck, this is too hard. You know, I'm too tired. And that becomes a habitual process that accumulates over a period of time, then you're miles short of the mark.
Yeah, you've got to be able to call yourself out on your own bullshit, eh?
You have to have a level of self-awareness. You know, because what tends to happen is we can create a victim story that then can populate a behaviour of, you know, procrastination. You know, I want my people to be do-it-now people. Now, ideally, it's knowing... It's a bit like pain. There is pain and there's acute pain. So you're running for 10Ks and there's an acute pain. Something's not right. You stop. That's smart. Ideally, though, when you start to feel pain, you know that the better version of you is on the other side of that pain. You've got to push through that. But when you have a clear vision, you'll embrace that challenge, because the gift is the challenge. The gift is the pain. When you learn to understand that pain is the universe telling you it loves you, you push through that shit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, fucking bring it. I want that shit.
Suddenly you're Dan the hangman.
Fuck, bro. I mean, and in that moment, because you know you could quit and you don't quit, what does it do for your self-esteem and confidence? You overcome.
Yeah.
But most people, we have this early warning system, and when we get close to that threshold, most people go, oh, fuck, it's just too hard. And they're really good at convincing themselves to fall short. And they wonder why they never progress. Fuck, we talked about this not just in a physical way, but also a mental way. The key to success is fucking failure. And yet we get so worried about failing, we never fully reach our potential. We need to be exposed. We need to be vulnerable. You know, it's fucking awful. My ultimate goal, one of them, was to be a great public speaker. And we're in Vegas, and I've got an opportunity to talk in front of 5,000 people with a guest speaker that night, Jim Rohn, who's my fucking idol. And I'm at the point now where I'm about to go on stage, and I'm desperate for any excuse to not do it. And I came up with something brilliant. I said to my wife, I can't go on stage. I'm sweating, soaking wet. It's embarrassing. She just pulled out another fucking T-shirt and goes, right, put it on, fuck off and get out there, you know. I loved her for that. But I would I say that I delivered a great speech? For me, no, not really. But it wasn't so much about delivering that as it was overcoming. It's the overcoming that's the power, right? That night, having dinner with my wife, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I looked up, and it was Jim Rohn. And he said, mate, you talk really well tonight. You have a bright future in this business. Wow. So pain means new life, man.
It's hard though, because we all know.
Well, listen to your language.
We all know that failure's like a stepping stone to success, but it still fucking sucks at the time.
No, you've got to learn to reframe things to serve you, right? You just think what you just said then. It's hard, eh? Well, that's putting up another barrier on top of another barrier. Listen, I remember on the other side of pain is a better version of you, right? Now, I spent a lot of time in the gym. Now, when you've got, a 320K squat, something could snap. But I know that if I focus on the potential for something to snap, then I am not fully committed. And I have to act as if. And so it's overriding that fair response. And for me, reframing that to serve me, you go on a journey. I mean, you think of academia. Now, I left school with no qualifications. Being dyslexic. My school C English paper, I wrote my name, put the pen down, and thought, what's the fucking point? I'm going to fail anyway. Later on, when I learnt that I'm dyslexic and then learnt how to learn, here I am now writing papers. I'm doing a degree in philosophy, and I'm nailing A's. Now, what's my language about essays now? I absolutely love writing essays. I have my own affirmations. A+ is most like me. Sits on my computer. And I've been getting these A's. Now, go back 40 years, I wouldn't have thought that. What was my language then? Well, what's the fucking point? That becomes your reality. So again, it's important for people to mind your language. Be consciously aware. What is the fucking story I'm telling myself? Then back it up and understand When I say give yourself permission to be brilliant, that is ambiguous. Be brilliant for you. You're the thing that you want to overcome. And this is what Carl Jung talked about. Where fear lies, there's your task. And when you start attacking those things, you become a better version of yourself. Isn't it interesting? People want confidence, but isn't it interesting when we say we build confidence? How do we build confidence? We build it through putting ourselves and exposing ourselves to tough conditions. Face that, and when you overcome, you put yourself on the path to happiness, man.
Yeah, how do you reframe that? Like if you find your sort of default setting as like a negative inner voice, or an inner voice that's not as kind to you as what it should be, how do you
programming? All right, so you recognise it. So you got a voice saying, "Look, I can't run ultra marathons," right? So what I would do is, we get a vision, right, and associate to that. So when you think of that moment where you've overcome that, what do you feel? What do you see? Get sensory specific with that vision. Right, now ideally I want you to put that on a board to remind you every day of what your purpose is. Now, let's start acknowledging what is some of the self-talk. I don't have the experience, I don't have all the bullshit excuses, right? And then from there I counter it with, okay, so you got a negative thought around, I haven't got physically what it is required to do this. So I'd counter with 3 affirmations. And so I get these affirmations. Now here's a prime example. For Michael Hendry took the affirmations and the vision board to the nth degree. He laminated the damn things and had them in the shower. So when you're having a shower by yourself and you're washing your hair, well, I don't, obviously, but you're washing your hair and you're thinking about things, he had these affirmations he's constantly programming to himself. What did Israel constantly do at the end of his bed? I'm the middleweight champion of the world. He didn't even have a fucking contract in 2016 for the UFC. And what it does is that these things compound, and then in the moment where you have to start that race, the fight and flight response goes, and that's, again, you have your affirmations, you do simple breathing exercise, you calm down the nervous system, you then deploy strategies to help support. Now, sometimes it's about divide and conquer with the goals. You're never just going to jump in and go, I'm going to do an ultra marathon. You broke it down, don't you? I'm going to do a 2K walk, and then a 5K walk, and then a fucking 1K run, and then a 10K run. Then you build it up. I mean, you be sensible with it too.
So, what do you have affirmations at the moment? Like, did you do any in the car on the way here, or
no? Because here's the thing. One of my affirmations, which is I don't have to have it written down because it's programmed, is everyone loves what I have to say. The second one is when my mouth is open, I'm open for business. I love talking, man. Do you know what I mean? This isn't hard. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. That's when you get out of your own way. There's no fear. Now, you go back to that 15-year-old kid at Wesley College. Fuck that. No way did I want to go on there.
Yeah, actually,
no way.
This is probably a good chance to pivot into more of the David Niethe story.
Yeah.
So far, it's been bloody great, but it's like tips and tools that can help everyone else. So, I've got a quote from you. I wanted to be fearless. I was sick and tired of being scared. So take us back there. What's called? Was it Wellesley? Wesley boarding school.
John Wesley. What?
So you were aboard. I believe it was quite an unpleasant time.
It was challenging, mate.
This was the 1980s.
Yeah, mate. So the bullying. Hey, look, we're in an era where Wesley College, St. Stephen's, they were tough schools. Here I was, a skinny little Palangi, and some of these Maori boys and Islander boys, at 15, they got beards. They're physical men. They're I reckon. I think it was my dorm prefect at junior dorm was a guy called Steve Tangavaya, who was 6'5" and 130 kgs.
Jesus, that's terrifying.
Are you
It's a grown-ass man.
And I will say to Steve, he's a bloody good bloke. He was really good to me. In fact, I actually can tell you a story about Steve Ortangavaya, and I hope he's listening. So they used to have senior film club, right? And I really wanted to go to the senior film club, but hey, it's only for 18 plus, right? So Steve said, hey, look, mate, I'll get you in. I went, wow, the teacher's there, man. You're getting deep shit. He goes, no, it's all good. So he grabs this blanket and he says, stand on my feet. And he puts the blanket around and just walks in. So here I am, 13. Big Steve's taken me into a senior film club. And I watched The Exorcist. Talk about fear. So I had to go back to the dorm by myself, right? You can imagine the old dorms. The scene, you know. I shat myself, man. I've never sprinted so hard to get to my bunk. But, you know, for me, there was a lot of bullying. And there was a lot of occasions where I hated the fact that I was fearful. You know, it was kind of weird, man. Like, I could handle the hiding, but what upset me was the fact that I gave my power away. I never wanted to give my power away.
What do you mean you gave it away? It was kind of taken away, wasn't it?
Well, and again, here's the thing. For me, it's sort of like that was my choice. I chose to be fearful. I surrendered to the state. And I think most of us you'd use that narrative and go, well, you know, it's taken off you. Like, when you think about it, it's taken off you. It presupposes that you had no fucking choice or chance. Well, I did have a fucking choice. And that's when I chose. In that moment, there was a moment when I'd had enough and I knew I had to take action. Now, the action I took is not appropriate. I hit the guy square in the frickin' jaw with everything I had. But he's 115 kg first. I mean, it was like, did you just slap me? Yeah. You know what I mean? But in that moment, I took something back. I overcome something, and that was so significant for me. I thought, hang on, it sparked something like, where else can I start applying this? And that put me on a path. So, you know, I started, it's interesting, here I am doing what I'm doing today. And I'm pretty confident, even though I had a few challenging teenage years. It started for me when I read the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Yeah, it was given to you by a priest, right?
Yeah, Graham Kane, who unfortunately has passed away now. That man, far out. He gave me that book, and immediately I could identify as Jonathan. Now, I'm not a particularly spiritual person, so you know the spiritual side. It was more about I could relate with Jonathan wanting to be the fastest seagull ever.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I hadn't heard of this book until I started reading yours.
Yeah.
And then I went into a bit of a deep dive on it. So it's basically about a seagull. All the seagulls just want to scavenge.
Just want to
do the minimum and survive.
Be part of the flock and survive. Yeah.
And Jonathan Livingston wanted to be different. He wanted to fly further distances and do more.
Absolutely. He wanted more out of life.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of that sort of existentialist sort of theory underlying it, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And that's what I could relate to. And again, this is where you sort of understand, you know, the most important project you'll ever work on is you. And I mean, what a wonderful way to live life. Because most people, you know, they'll just be part of the flock, and then they're dead. What's the fucking point of life?
Yeah, you only get one shot at a day. It's not a dress rehearsal.
For fuck's sake, there's no dress rehearsal here.
Yeah. Okay, so there's the bullying at school. Then you hit the bully back, which is what everyone says to do. But then what happens? Does he give you even more of a hiding?
He gave me a fucking hiding.
But then did he stop after that?
He stopped after that, and I think it's something changed within me, and I'm very obsessive too. So obviously, what is the solution? Well, it's pretty clear. I'm going to be the biggest, strongest mother beep I can possibly be.
Why are you censoring now?
Yeah, I don't know. A bit fucking late, isn't it? We'll beep that. We'll beep the apology out. But you know, it's like I became. So the three things that I conquered that I'm really proud of. Number one is building my confidence through the bullying. The second is overcoming public speaking, and the third is academia. And like I said, I'm nailing A's in my philosophy papers. I am so fucking proud of myself. But my wife will tell you, you know, I work my ass off. I would say that, you know, I have to do a lot more work. Being dyslexic, I spend a lot of time in research. I have to do a little bit more than... I envy some of these people that can read a PDF and regurgitate everything in it. I need to read it 20 times, you know, and take notes and all sorts of things. But there's no excuse. No excuse. You know, I expect A's.
It's quite funny. Just before you, a second ago, you said, I'm fucking proud of myself. And and you looked me in the eye when you said it. I can tell you mean it. It's a question that I ask a lot of my podcast guests towards the end. I say, "Are you proud of yourself?" And the reason I ask it is it's interesting to me how people answer, and also how awkward a lot of people are about being hit with that question. So is that a Kiwi thing or what?
Yeah, well, I think it's a fucking real issue, because here's what I believe. I believe, you know, to a certain point in our culture, our history, our environment, you know, we're told to be humble, not egotistical, and we're told to be very altruistic, right? I believe in selfishness. I believe it's important to put yourself first and give yourself permission to put yourself first. But you know, we talk about the virtues. Selfishness is a virtue. You've got to give yourself permission to put yourself first, right? The other thing that we were talking about was being humble. There is a time to be humble, but at the same time, you've got to give yourself permission to have undoubtable belief in self and to be proud of yourself. There's nothing wrong with being proud, man. You know, I fucking get what I deserve, and I've worked my butt off, and I'm proud of myself. Because to be humble all the time, I think that I think that disempowers people. You know what I mean? It's okay to be proud. You should be proud of yourself. And I think today, you know, I actually give my clients an affirmation, which is and then they write the full name, am undoubtedly proud of myself. And when you get to that point and you are proud of yourself, it has a positive effect on people around you. You get to affect the world in a positive way.
Yeah, and it's contagious. Like, you want to
people
be
like it, man.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So, okay, so you have the incident with the bully at school. Then you get introduced to the book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Yep.
Then, how do you end up in a shitty, like, dead-end printing job?
Mate, because the motivation at that point was just to get the hell out of school.
Okay.
So, you know, the old man pulled some strings. I mean, back in those days, if you were smart, you went to university. If you didn't, you got a trade. So the old man pulled some strings, and I did a trade. Dad was a printer. I followed him in a different type of printing, but yeah, we're both printers.
You were doing like Women's Day magazines or Women's Weekly.
I'll tell you what I used to do, and I was very good actually, was Women's Day cover.
What do you mean you were good?
And I'll tell you how. There was a guy called Michael Turner who was the publisher who used to come and do the press pass. And he'd always ask me to do it because I had a knack of... I knew how he wanted, in particular, skin tone on the covers.
In terms of the ink.
Yeah, fuck, man. He was particular. And so he bloody should be too, right? Because he really cared about his product. And so I would get it to a point where when he came in for a press pass, he could take 2 or 3 copies and go, sign it off, gone. Because the moment they sign off the cover, you take your specials that bind and send to the appropriate people so it looks pretty, and we can start speeding up the press and get the job done, you know. But I think he appreciated the fact that he was in and out. And I took real pride on the fact that he requests me. So it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning, Dave's doing the press pass. Okay, good. And then I'd do the press pass for him. Yeah, nice guy.
So you've always had this sort of sense of pride in your work.
I want to be the best at all I can possibly do. And I mean, there's a certain competitiveness to that. But I just think, surely, to a certain point, if you look at the foundational level and you see yourself as the most magnificent project you'll ever work on, surely seeking excellence in every part of the things that you put your energy to, isn't that being congruent?
Yeah, the stuff you're saying is really good, but then I was going to say, how do you avoid that thing where other people go, oh, he thinks his shit don't stink?
Well, here's
or
the thing.
People going to think that, and you have to override that.
For fuck's sake, Dom. Here's the thing. I don't give a fuck what they think. You know what I mean? Why should I fucking have someone dictate to me what I should be fucking feeling? Fuck that. And fuck you. Nah. Yeah. If you think about this, I gave you the affirmation, I am undoubtedly proud of myself, right? If I'm undoubtedly proud of myself, you can say whatever you fucking want. I don't give a fuck. Here's the story. So, Buddha, the guy goes, talks to Buddha, and he goes, if someone wants to give you a gift and you chose not to accept that gift, to whom then does the gift belong? And the guy said, well, to the person that gave it originally. He said, correct. And does that not also apply to their abuse?
That's good. I suppose the same sort of thing can or would apply to online stuff as well, which I know is a massive problem for a lot of people.
Yep.
What's your take on that?
Well,
I mean, you're a special case. Like you've been doing this for 30 years.
Yep.
You have an ability that most people don't have to block out the noise.
Yeah. I think I'm still a sensitive guy. You know. So
if you watch the Style Bender movie, Izzy even battles with it.
Absolutely.
Still a distracting.
And again, this is where you've got to. Actually, one of the most profound things ever said comes from boxing. Believe it or not, and it's the last thing that the referee says to the two guys before they come out banging, and that is, protect yourself at all times. Now, block, turn off, turn down, turn over. You don't have to read that shit. Do you know what I mean? The wonderful thing is we have agency. We have free will. Use it. Now, the other key thing is those that we fear in society, or those that we are intimidated by, we like to attack. Now, I'm quite happy to have a discussion and to be criticised, etc. And I'll listen to that. But first and foremost, the person that's doing that has to have some level of credibility. Every man and his dog, right? And we talk about this. Everyone's a fucking expert online. Where do you live? Have you had a face-to-face conversation with them? So, for me, it's just fucking noise, and I just turn it off. If you're on the radio and you listen to some music that you hate, what, do you endure it, or do you turn the channel? You turn the channel, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, but to be really frank, I'm at a point, I just really don't give a fuck what people think, because I know when I reflect on my life, I know that I have made a beautiful, positive effect in tens of thousands of people, and I'm proud of that. And anyone who thinks otherwise, it's their fucking problem. I don't care.
I love that. I love it because it is. Yeah, it's noise. It's annoying.
It's noise.
Eh?
Yeah,
It's a distraction.
It's annoying.
And you're only people are only criticizing people that are doing better than them.
Fucking
It is
jealous.
It is punching up.
I mean, I just simply go with a counter. So what have you done?
Yeah. Okay, so you leave school. You're doing the printing thing. Is this when you start going to the gym? Is this when you start the Strongman? How do you fit it in?
The whole purpose of work was to pay for my gym and my food. So I used to go to work and I had a chili bin, and there would be like a chicken, about 20 dozen eggs, I mean, I'd stink the fucking place out. Broccoli, I'm obsessed, man. Fuck, I ate like a motherfucker, right? So, in fact, I had scales at work. It's a shame that I'd love to have taken a photo because it's got the year. I think when I arrived there, I was about, so I would have been 16. I think I was about probably 80 kgs, right? And then over the years before I left, I think I was tipping the scales about 150 kgs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, so you almost doubled in size, but all muscle though.
Yeah, oh, hell yeah, man.
Oh
I train like a motherfucker. And this is the beautiful thing. I became obsessed. I'm like I said, I'm very focused, I'm obsessive and tenacious. And that's something else you got to develop is a tenacious resolve. And so I was disciplined, but I was one of the things that I think was the best thing for me was I was intelligent enough to know that the moment I was the strongest guy in the gym, that I had to leave. Because the last thing I wanted, if I truly wanted to achieve, I needed to be exposed. I needed to be challenged.
Oh, so you didn't want to be like a big fish in a small pond?
I don't want to be the biggest guy in the gym. So eventually through training in a YMCA at Papakura, where I first started, through to some of the gyms in Papakura, to Takanini, to Manurewa, right through to Simon Street, where the fucking freaks were. The moment that I got to a point that I was sort of pushing and everyone's going, oh, fuck, he's the strong, I got the hell out. And I think, again, that's in of itself a really important factor because we like to be comfortable.
Yeah, it's sort of like something in our brain wiring, eh?
Yeah, well, we have an innate part of us which is, to move away from pain. When we talk about motivational filtering systems, right, the most powerful is away from, right? So people will do anything to move away from pain, right? The next then is towards something. Now, most of us aren't. We're not picking up our family and escaping a war, right? For us in this country, we're fairly comfortable. We've got it pretty good here. I mean, this is one of the greatest countries in the world. Most of us are moving towards something. Well, no, I would say some of us are moving towards something. We set those goals, the vision. Where most people sit is in the middle. They're comfortable. Like I said, you only got a certain amount of time on this planet, man. Fuck, investigate where those fears are, overcome them. I'm gonna die a very satisfied, fulfilled man, and I don't fear death. Ideally, I want it to be,
a long way in the
another 50 odd years, if you wouldn't mind, Yeah. But it's like, I mean, if I was to go to today, I can reflect on my life and go, you know what? Fuck, I overcome and I achieved something. That's a life lived. Some of your viewers may have read, Viktor
Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Hell of a book.
Man.
Yeah.
What a book, eh? And there's a pile of these books out there to read. Jim Rohn talked about this. He said 3 steps to greatness. Number 1, set goals. Number 2, educate yourself. And 3, have a financial plan. And, here I am now, the first part, setting those goals and achieving that, educating myself, and that's pretty ambiguous. It could be educating in something like art, or for you, educating yourself on how to get the most out of your performance with your ultra running, etc. And then the last is having a financial plan. And even that is interesting. We have so much debt today. Everyone's into credit. Maybe we need to go back to some old-fashioned values and understand the importance of living on less than what you
living within your means.
Yeah.
And I suppose one thing you got from your lifting is it's hard to think of a more apt example of delayed gratification. You've got to work hard for a long time.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the financial thing as well, like delayed gratification. Instead of like getting your phone today on Afterpay, wait 6 months.
Joe, I'll tell you something. One of the things that Joe and I, my wife, we've kept it quite interesting. I'm going to use the word humble. We didn't go out and party up and whatnot, but here we are now where we're in a very good financial situation, and I don't have to work hard. But we were, it's the old, what would you rather have, $1 million in cash or $1 that doubles every day for 30 days?
Well, if I wasn't familiar with this riddle, I'd go for the $1 million.
Yeah, most people do. Yeah, give me the cash, mate. See ya. I don't even care what the outcome is. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, it's over $5 million, man. And I think that's it. I think part of today's society is we want it all now, and we want to keep up with the Jones. Fuck the Joneses. Your journey is your journey, and when you have a lot of your own goals and a confidence within yourself, then you're not going to start comparing yourself to others. When you don't have to do that, that's fucking freedom, man. You stay on your own path. It's fucking nice.
Fuck, there's so many good takeaways in this.
So we got takeaway.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. What are your flaws or bad habits or work-ons? Are you a takeaway guy?
Oh, come on, mate. I do like a nice Indian. Actually, and a burger. And look, I love food. I love eating. And currently right now, I'm proud to say, Dom, I've lost 9 kgs. I'm doing a keto thing at the moment, which is I'm quite impressed with. It's working really well. I don't have any really things that I have a lot of that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to finishing my degrees. I am certainly looking forward to. I'm going to be taking 3 or 4 months off to go and travel in Europe with my wife. And I think that's something I'm really looking forward, because I've learned so much through the philosophy. So I want to go to Greece, I want to go to Germany, I want to go to Europe and really understand and experience it. I haven't done a lot of travel. I've been to America, I've been around the Pacific and Australia, but so that's something I'm really looking forward to. Yeah.
And I see you sort of fell into this career, right? So you're doing the printing, and then and that's when that sort of overlaps with the strongman stuff.
Yeah.
And then
it was the strongman that got me into this.
So because you've been doing it 30 years now, and it's
what it was is that it came to a point where I had to make some decisions, right? So obviously with the strongman, a lot of the guys are juicing it up, and it just didn't sit right with me. So I went and investigated, the strongest, the Bulgarians, the Russians, what were they doing? And one of the things that I sort of realised is they were doing a lot of work on hypnosis. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. So I went and worked and studied hypnosis, and then from there backed into neurolinguistics. And at that, in NLP, you got to appreciate in the sort of late 80s and 90s was still very new as a technology. So I was one of the first to be certified in this country. And it expanded from there. And ironically, we got more and more courses and information on mental performance, etc., etc. So, mate, books, you name it. I became obsessed. I've said when I was printing, I managed to get a job off the press because I'm starting to build my business now. And so I got a job in the day selling print, right, at a sister company to Confronting where I was. And I remember one of the things was that I had to get a certain budget. Now, 3 months in, I've come from steel cap boots and overalls, having an interview with the boss saying, I want a job as a sales rep. And he's like, I kind of know you're doing this mental stuff, so I'll give you a chance. I've got no sales training, and it's in sheet, which is not my thing for printing, right? So 3 months in, I'm miserable. I'm selling like $500 worth of business cards, but fucking miles short of the mark. And the boss gets me and he goes, hey, listen, mate, you better sort your shit out or, mate, you're out of a job. And I'm like, I'm doing a little bit of coaching at night and on the weekends. Not enough to sustain a bloody mortgage and a family, you know? And so I thought, okay, I've got to ask myself a better question. Well, my budget was $700,000 worth of sales. By June, I had hit $1.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, doubled the budget. Now, here's the beautiful thing. So, right, I doubled my budget, number one sales rep. Yeah. Number one, right? And this guy is there's people that have been there for 15 fucking years, right? So I'm number one, and no one said a fucking thing. And I remember the boss there at the time walking up the corridor. Now I'm fucking pissed off, right? And I'm angry. And I said, hey, any chance we're going to have a chat? And he goes, yeah, whatever. Very dismissive. And he said, and I said to him, hey, his name was Graham. And I said, look, it's been 3 months and I've doubled my budget and I haven't had a word from management going, hey, congratulations. Hey, look, here's a couple of $100, take your wife out for dinner on us. Congratulations. And he sat in his chair in the office with a cigarette in his fucking mouth, leaned back and he said, Dave, just be glad you got your fucking job. Now, in that moment, mate, I slammed the door so fucking hard, it came off its hinges. From thereafter, every day I go to work, I put my cursor into out all day. I would go to Mount Wellington Library. I would go into the psychology self-help. I would grab a pile of books. I'd go up to the top of Mount Wellington with all my fucking food, my chicken, my eggs, my broccoli, and fucking read. And for 6 months, that's all I fucking did. I done my budget, and I doubled it. Fuck them. Fuck them.
Fuck, you've always had this sort of drive, eh?
Yeah.
What would you, if you could go back and talk to yourself, as that scared little 13-year-old boy, Wesley, what would you say to him?
I wouldn't change a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Because it's moulded me into the man I am today, and I'm fucking proud of that. So, mate, I could have easily have let that episode of bullying define me into being, that wimpy kid who was a victim, who had a limited model of the world.
There's a lot of power for a lot of people in that victim mentality, eh?
I think a lot of people 95% of the population.
95%.
Yeah, fucking.
I feel like a lot of people get almost like an adrenal kick out of it.
Do you know what? You're right, and I'll tell you what I've always said. And this is the sad thing. People put more time and effort into creating their victim story than they do about getting off their ass and creating a better life.
Because there's power. There's power, and there's a certain amount of power in being a victim.
And on online today, I'll trump your fucking victim story with mine. Fuck. It's just it's a false economy, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and you do. There is that sort of gratification you get of people saying, "Oh, poor you," but you're not advancing yourself, are you, by being in that victim zone?
No, you define yourself in the victim zone. You're now obliged to stay, and you'll never really, truly realise the best version of yourself. And that should be everyone's project.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been asking myself this a lot in the past week, knowing that this podcast was coming up and having started to read your book, The Winning Mindset.
The Winning Mindset.
The Winning Mindset. It's a great.
Say that again, Don.
It's a great book. It's my sort of book. It's
mate, I'll tell you what, that's a fine looking cover though, isn't it?
Well, you see the cover, and it's like, I've never met you before, and I hadn't seen a photo of you, and I was like, oh, this guy's a strong man. Then I looked up photos of you. Yeah, I imagine that to be a thin dude. Yeah. A lean dude.
That guy there was lean at that point of the photo being done.
Oh, yeah, no, but what I was saying, the book's got me thinking, and it's like, you know how people say, I tried my hardest, or I gave it 100%. I reckon I'm probably like giving life 60 or 70% at least.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's reality shit. I'm not proud of saying that. I'm just not.
Well, I think it's sort of like, hang on. You've got to get to a certain level of actualization. You know what I'm going to do after this? I'm going to go home. I'm going to have a cuppa, and I'm going to sit on my lazy boy, and I'm going to have a snooze. And I'm quite happy with doing that. I like a little afternoon snooze. Could I be studying? Could I be going to the... Yes. But there's got to be balance, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as you've got the balance right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you have to give yourself a little bit of a pass sometimes.
Well, you can't... unless you're a freaking immortal. Yeah, we're humans, right? We've got to be humanistic. There are times when the best thing to do is to do nothing at all. But it's knowing that is justified and legit in the sense that making that decision, I've done it guilt-free. And so I can completely rest in peace.
Oh, I love that. You do look like a napper. I can imagine you napping.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I tell
snoring as well. You
do mate. You know the dribble.
I said on Instagram you were coming over. I've got a bunch of questions here. You want
let's go for it.
Okay. How do you keep clients from becoming overconfident? Or is that even a bad thing?
What the fuck? What? How does one define over? I mean, what the most ridiculous? What does that mean? I'm sorry, your son's gone a little too far with me. He's overconfident, so we're going to have to beat him up, take him back a couple of notches. So here, that's just. I would say that's from someone who really struggles to understand what it is to be undoubtedly fucking proud of yourself. What, overconfident? It's a fucking oxymoron, isn't it?
How do you measure progress in mental performance? Are there specific metrics or indicators you use?
Yeah, there's certain KPIs. For instance, it's dependable on the requirement of the sport, right?
Yeah.
So for a swimmer, here's an example. I have a young man that I work with, and the measurables for us was time. Time's probably the most used metric in sport. And so I started, his name is James Slesser. He won't mind me saying that. He's at Youthtown University in America. And James, when I first started working with him, he was this fucking cute little fucking kid who loved and wanted to be a really good swimmer, right? And I remember working with him, and here's the thing that really gives me a buzz, right? Because it's not just about getting gold medals and world champs, right? So he's at, I think it was Napier, this is going back probably 6 years, national champs, and his mum and dad are in the car driving him home, and Dad phones me and says, Dave, I just want to let you know, James had a 3-second PB today in the pool, which is significant.
Unreal. Yeah.
Unreal. Now, here's the thing. That wasn't his preferred event. In his preferred event, and Dad's going, hang on, I'm going to let James tell you. He had a 13-second PB. 13 seconds. What the? And for him, he was constantly intimidated by others. He put them on a pedestal. We talked about when you put people on a pedestal, you give your power away. We started working on changing that. 13 seconds. What do you think it did for that young man's belief? Right now, he's committed to the world champs. And this is the guy, I think the goal now is to crack the 1 minute, to hit 59 seconds for the 100-metre backstroke, I think, you know. He's still coming up through the ranks. I think the best time's 57 or something.
Right, so to shave, say, 13 seconds off your PB, how much of that is physical and how much of that is...
Mental. That was purely mental in that contest, because, you know, what you got to appreciate is the 13 seconds. So that is a PB based on a time that was done approximately a month, 3 months before that. So I had about 2 or 3 sessions with him. So it was over a 90-day period. So we had a frame of reference. So, you know, we had an action reflection process with the coaching. But when you reflect back over that 3 months, it's 13 seconds is significant.
Oh, it's insane.
It really is.
It's insane.
It really is.
How can I stay motivated, especially when results aren't immediate?
Tenacious, resolve. You go until you achieve. Because here's the thing. Think of what your presupposition under that is that it's hard for me to stay motivated. Well, then how fucking clear are you on the vision? How fucking bad do you want it? I mean, seriously. You know, this is the shit that I call people out on. That's a cop-out. It's hard to stay motivated. It's because you haven't got a clear enough fucking vision.
Yeah.
It's not fucking exciting enough.
Or you don't want it bad enough.
And it's not fucking vivid enough. You've got to work with the end in mind. Now, there's some things that we can certainly do to help minimise that, but you know, again, you're saying that it's a task to be motivated. I would say to you, here's something that I think you want to create when we talk about a vision. Okay, now I would suggest to you that as a kid, most of the mornings when you had to get up for school, Mum was going, for fuck's sake, Dom, hurry up, you've got school, right? Now, hurry up, right?
Yeah.
What were you like Christmas fucking morning? Bouncing around the fucking mum and dad's bed at 5:30 in the morning going, well, fucking Santa's here. Every day Santa comes when you've got a clear vision. Yeah. You create that energy. Fuck, it's so sad when people, fuck, you're soft. You know what I mean? You get what you fucking deserve. If that's the question you're going to fucking ask, you fucking get what you deserve. It's fucking...
Have you... I was going to ask, have you, but I'm sure this would have happened. I suppose the question is how often. There must have been clients that you've either fired or vice versa. They've ran off crying.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, when a client comes to me, there's a couple of key things. Number one, I will ask, do you give me permission to be blunt and honest? Now, in that point, if they say no, fine, there's the door. I wish you all the best. If they say yes, I'm not saying that I'm going to jump on you and fucking... But you don't know. It could be 3 sessions in that you say something and I'll call you out on it. Yeah, because my job is not to be your best friend. My job is to help you with performance.
Are there any good examples of?
Yes, but I think sometimes just I actually shared one. I had an individual. I'm going to make this really clear. It was an individual who came to see me who's associated with high performance, and they were going into a camp for a international competition. Right now, you got to appreciate. Our taxpayer money goes into high performance to hire and put those facilities there with good coaches. Well, I think we've got really good coaches in this country. Okay, that person had one requirement, and that is to come into the camp at the appropriate weight to start the periodization program to peak for the competition. That was it. The individual showed up 3.5 kgs overweight. Okay. Now, it may not be much for a lot of average listeners out there, but when you're in high performance, that's half a stone. That's significant. It's over half a stone. So, this person's telling me the story. And the person said, then my coaches fat shamed me. Right? Now, fuck, man. Again, we go back to the victim shit, right? Yeah. Now, I said to her, I'm going to stop you right there. We went through what we discussed, and I said, did you have an obligation? And why do you think they asked you to stay at that, to be on weight? Well, because of the periodization program. Yes. And what was the purpose of the periodization program? Is to peak for that competition. All those fucking people that worked their butt off had adhered to what they were required to do. You had one job. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you to do right now. You either get on the phone right now, whilst we're in this session, and you're going to apologise to your coach, and if you don't, you can leave, because I've got no respect for you. They got on the phone and apologised to the coach. And I said, I'm going to tell you now, you ever do that again, you're fired. Again, we get on the victim's triangle where we play the victim and we feel that we're being persecuted and all we want is to be rescued. We've got to get off that shit. She wanted to be rescued by me in that session. The loving option is to be blunt and honest.
You have to be independent, and private, because this is not the time for a man like you in terms of like being employed by, let's say, High Performance Sport New Zealand or like a governing body. You just be
mate.
Unpopular opinions,
mate. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I'll tell you that now. But here's the bottom line, and I'll tell you something that I'm really proud of. I refuse to work for anyone. I will work with you, but never for you. And I've had some challenges with high performance. I can tell you that now. But here's the thing. Here I am operating from an office which was a garage in a little place in Waterview. Out of that garage, I have produced 2 Halberg Award winners. I have produced some of the greatest athletes to ever come out of this country and internationally. I've got winners from Belgium to London to America to Sri Lanka. That's pretty impressive, mate.
No, it is. It is. Yeah.
I would like to say that I'm probably the most successful performance coach, one of the most successful performance coaches in the world that you've never heard of, and that's exactly how it should be, because it's not about me, it's about my clients. I take pride in winning. You know what I mean? And winning by definition isn't necessarily about being first. Winning sometimes for a lot of my clients is overcoming something that was sabotaging their potential. So, I feel like that interview with Arnold. You remember Pumping Iron?
Oh, Pumping Iron. I love that movie so much.
Coming day and night, do you know? I love this shit, man.
How good is that movie?
Oh, fucking brilliant. Mate, are you serious? Like, I was brought up with that.
Yeah, it was incredible. Do you feel like the pendulum's sort of swinging in this whole, we want to create a safe environment? That wokeness or whatever you want to
call it? Well, I said to you I don't want to go there because I am fucking anti-woke bullshit, right? I mean, and there's so many areas. I think, the scary thing is the ability for people to critically think is fucking alarming. There is, and the other thing is, one of the things I love about philosophy is the art of discourse. We can have an argument and still part respecting each other. Today, it's a screaming match. It's who's the loudest.
Or if someone says one thing that they if you say one thing I disagree with, I'm like, well, I have to dispose of everything you've ever said.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll give you a prime example. As I said, I'm an existentialist. I'm not a religious person at all, right? But I have enough integrity and respect to be able to work with clients. Now, here's a prime example. I work with a lovely lady, Maria Turtoa.
Now Maria Falau, yeah.
Correct. Very religious. And when we started working together, we had an open conversation, and I said, look, moving forward, I want to respect your faith, and I need you to respect my... But we had the most incredible conversations. Such a lovely lady, you know what I mean? So we can agree to disagree, but still respect each other. And I think that's what's needed in this world. We've got to learn to listen, to respect, and in some cases, ideally to respect the fact that we won't ever agree, but we can still agree to be respectful of each other, Yeah,
I agree with that, 100%. Last one.
All right.
This
is the best one, right?
There's so many of these, but yeah, we'll be here all day, and you need to have your nap.
Yeah.
Which plays more of a crucial role in achieving success, motivation or discipline?
Obviously, it's discipline. Motivation is important because what it can do is it can start the catalyst to then eventually become discipline. Bottom line is that we behave our way to success. So the habit that is continued over a long period of time, that's what gets you there. Yeah. But sometimes you need a little bit of motivation just to get the momentum going.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've got that on my Range Rover motivator plate. I love it. I'm the motivator, but the whole purpose of the motivation is to start building the momentum that eventually becomes habitual.
Big Dave, this has been fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, mate. Thanks. I love your wall.
Oh, thank you. It's fake brick. It's not real.
Freaking cool.
Fake it till you make it.
You've got it, mate.
The Winning Mindset, hell of a book.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, eh? Who would have thought? Dyslexic kid from school.
Yep. And it just goes to show, if I can do it, and people say to me, to be a success, what do you need? You know what you need? 100 trillion cells. What are we all made up of?
Same.
Every single person has got exactly what they need right now to become whatever they want.
Oh, you're awesome. You're very inspiring.
Thank you.
And good luck for the future. We'll have you back.
Yeah, I'd love to be back, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get some of all those questions answered for
Let's
you.
go. Viewers, mate, there's an unlimited supply of them. There's so many questions.
Just as long as they're not dumb ones.
Yeah.
We need to vet some of
Who was the person you shot down? What was that? Anyway,
I don't know. I'm going to find out who they are.
Brilliant. Love it, mate.
All right. Thanks for having me, mate.
Dave.